Hello and welcome to another fun-filled video on Math with Mr. Sims. This is a cycle 10 test incentive video. So if you have a test coming up, and you should, if you have that test coming up, this is one of the best ways to just kind of get into the test studying groove. Once again, this is the very least you should be doing. After you do this, I would suggest that you do the rest of the study sheet. Make sure you understand how to do it, and just get your study groove on. All right, let's go ahead and move on then, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Once again, as always, we're going to take about 30 minutes. I'm going to see as many problems as I can get done in those 30 minutes. So hopefully we can get done enough that you're successful on the test. All right, so without further ado, let me go ahead and get started. Alexa, set a timer for 30 minutes.
30 minutes, starting now.
Awesome, thanks. So, all right, so what we have here is we have 25x squared minus 400. So it says factor if possible, right? So it's saying that it might be a case where it's not factorable. So I'm looking at this here and I'm thinking, okay, I could probably take out 5 and I could take out 20, right, from both of these. But you know what? There's something actually... Sorry, actually 5 would be the thing I could take out of both of them. But there's something even better than that I can take out, because I could recognize that this right here is a perfect square, and this is a perfect square, and this right here is the difference of these two squares. In other words, it's subtracting those two squares. So this actually fits the formula a squared minus b squared is equal to a minus b times a plus b. And so once again, what this is saying is this. It's saying if you have a scenario where you have a perfect square here, right? If you have a perfect square here and it's being subtracted from it another perfect square, then the factors of it are going to just be whatever this is, the square root of this is, minus whatever the square root of this is, times whatever the square root of this is, plus whatever the square root of this is, okay? So in other words, to put that in perspective, what 25x squared is, if I want to figure out what it is that multiplies to give me 25x squared times itself, or what thing do I square, it's really going to be 5x. In other words, if I take 5x and I square it, I'm going to get 25x squared. Minus my b, which is I need to figure out what can I multiply times itself to get 400. And you can literally do this in your calculator. Just take the square root of 400 and you're going to get 20. So I'm saying that 5x squared minus 20 squared, right? So once again, we see that my 5x is actually my a, right? Because it's being squared. My 20 is actually my b. So this is all equal to a, which is 5x, right? And I'm going to put the 5x over here as well, right? 5x, and this one's going to be minus and plus, and then the b is going to be 20 and 20, and then I close it. And as you can see, this is just 5x minus 20 times 5x plus 20. Just so you know, if you also did 5x plus 20 times 5x minus 20, that would be the exact same thing, right? Because it doesn't matter with multiplication which one comes first. So anyway, I just wanted to show you basically what we did then. Again, I did a very long process here to show you what's really happening, but essentially what you're doing, you're taking the square root of this, you're saying what times itself gives me 25x squared. The answer is 5x, so I put that in front. Then I put a minus and I put a plus. Then I'm saying what multiplies times itself to get 400, and I put that in back. So once again, 5x minus 20, 5x plus 20, okay? All right, so that's problem number 1 done. Let's see if there's another one similar to it. Factor if possible. So this one looks pretty good, right? You'll notice we have a perfect square here. We have a subtraction sign, so they are being subtracted. But you'll notice this is not a perfect square. And that's a bummer, because if it was the perfect squares, then we could do that cool difference of squares formula right there, right? Once again, this formula here is in your star chart, right? So you don't have to memorize it. It's right in your star chart, but you do need to be able to read it, right? So anyway, you have the 8x squared minus 36. If I have this problem here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the biggest thing I can here. So I'm going to divide by 4 and divide by 4. So I get 4 times 2x squared, right? minus 9. Now you might be wondering, Mr. Sims, why didn't you take out a 4x? Well, I can't take out a 4x here because there's no x term here. So the best thing I can take out in this case was a 4. That's the greatest common factor that I could take out of both of them. So I get 4 times 2x squared minus 9. So do be aware of that. It almost looked like it was difference of perfect squares, but this is not a perfect square, so we couldn't do that. All right, let's move on to the next one. Factor if possible. So we have 4x squared minus 1. So I have a perfect square here, right? 2x times 2x is going to give me that 4x squared, right? So that's promising. Is this a perfect square? 1. Well, yeah, 1 times 1 equals 1. So that's a perfect square as well. So what I have here now is I'm going to go ahead. This is the difference because it's subtraction. I have a perfect square here. I have a perfect square here, and I'm subtracting them. So this is the difference of two squares. So I'm just going to go set up my parentheses. In the first parentheses, I'm going to put 4x squared. What's the square root of that, right? What's the square root of 4x squared? Or in other words, what multiplies times itself to give me 4x squared? And the answer is 2x, right? And 2x, I'm going to put them both there. Then I'm going to put a minus sign here and a plus sign here, or plus and minus. It doesn't matter as long as they're different. And then the last one, what multiplies to give me 1? Well, 1 times 1 gives me 1, right? So my answer is 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 1. You good? All right, let's go ahead and do 7. Factor the trinomial. 15x squared plus 26x plus 8. So if I'm looking at this one here, there's actually two ways to tackle this problem. I'm going to tackle it what I consider like the more right way, but I want you to also notice there's a way where you could do it where you could actually FOIL each of these. It's not as efficient, but you could FOIL each of these and see which one gets 15x squared plus 26x plus 8. And in fact, it's not a bad idea since they gave you the answer choices. Once you get the answer choice, to double check by factoring, okay? But by foiling. But I'm just going to go ahead and now I'm going to draw my x, right? And my x, I'm going to put on the top 15 times 8, or a times c. Once again, this is my a number, my b number, and my c number. Okay, it's dealing with the coefficient. You're not worried about the x, you're dealing with the coefficients here. So I have 15x squared, 26x, and 8. So 15 times 8 is going to be my a times c. Let me do that in my calculator because I don't know my 15's times tables. My nephews do, by the way, in case you're wondering. 15 times 8 is 120, but they lived in Asia, that's why. So in Asia, they actually went all the way up to 15, which is cool. And I think for extra credit, they could do you up to 20. So anyway, 15s are there. So 15 times 8 is 120. And on the bottom is my b term. So they have to add to get 26, but multiply to get 120. So I'm just going to take here, I'm going to draw my 120. I'm going to start making my factors of 120. 1 times 120. Now I don't know, well I do know 2 times 60 is 120, but I actually know 3 times 40 is 122. Okay, so at some point I'm not going to know how it goes into it, right? And so I would do it in my calculator. 120 divided by 4, and 120 divided by 4 is 30, okay? Then, and once again, I'm looking for two numbers that add to get 26. I haven't got there yet. 5 times 24 is close to that 26, right? 6 times 20, and look at that, 6 times 20. If I add 6 plus 20, I am going to get, if I add 6 plus 20, I'm going to get that 26 that I'm looking for, right? 6 plus 20 equals 26. So that's the one I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 6 there and my 20 there. I always like to repeat my x over here, right? So I got my 6 and I got my 20. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of room to work with right in this spot here. But basically, let me go ahead and just write it down here. I'm going to go ahead and bring stuff down, right? So I got my 15x squared, right? I brought that down. Then I'm going to bring down, once again, the whole point of all of this here had one single point, and that was to split up this 26x into the two terms that made it before. So I get plus 6x plus 20x plus 8. So I split that 26 up into the two that I know work, and I'm going to group, and I'm going to factor out. So the biggest thing I can take out of 15x squared plus 6x, It looks like I can take out 3x from both of them, right? So I'm going to divide by 3x and divide by 3x. So that 3x comes out front, and I'm left with 5x plus 2. And then I want to get 5x plus 2 again. So I'm thinking about what can I do to here to get 5x plus 2. Well, hopefully you realize that you can take 20x and divide it by 4, right? So I'm going to add 4 here times, once again, I'm going to get 5x plus 2 if I divide both of these by 4, right? So I now have 3x times 5x plus 2 plus 4 times 5x plus 2. And once again, I'm sorry that that ran in over there. That really wasn't my intention. Let me see if I can clean that up just a hair. All right. So I'm to this point here. Now the insides become one factor. That's going to be 5x plus 2, right? And based on that, I can already see this is a 5x plus 2. This looks very promising. I hope that the next one's 3x plus 4. And my outsides become a factor. So that's 3x plus 4. Okay, so 3x plus 4 times 5x plus 2. So hopefully you were able to do that. Once again, if you're having trouble going this way and they give you the answer choices, you could FOIL them all to see if that works. I'm not going to do that tonight in the interest of time because I do want to move on to other problems. But if you want to test that out yourself, you could take and multiply 3x plus 4 times 5x plus 2. But I want to reiterate, the whole reason we did this part here, the entire part of doing all this x method, is just to split up this 26x into the two terms that made it originally. All right, let's go ahead and come over here and factor the trinomial. All right, so to factor this trinomial, once again, I'm going to do my x, right? I do my x, and I'm going to redo my x over here because I like to have a little bit more room to work with, right? So this is my a term here, my b term here, and my c term. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to get me a times c, which is 15, but they have to add to give me a negative 8. Okay, so think about it this way. How can they multiply to give me a 15 but add to give me a negative 8? Well, that right there tells me that they're both going to be negative. So I'm going to go ahead and write my 15 here, and I'm asking myself the question, what times what? They both have to be negative so they add to get negative 8, but they have to two negatives multiply to give me a positive, right? So I know it's going to be like negative 1 times negative 15. Well, that didn't work because they don't add up to get negative 8. So I'm going to keep going. Negative 3 times a negative 5. Well, guess what? That works. Negative 3 times a negative 5. If I take negative 3 and I add negative 5, I get negative 8, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and that's what I'm looking for here, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that and go ahead and put my negative 3 here and my negative 5. I'll actually finish this one out too. I like to be consistent. Negative 5, all right? So now, remember, this is actually called the half x method because normally with the full x method, I would bring down the n squared, right? Minus 3n. What is that, Mr. Sims? Minus 3n, right? Minus 5n plus 15, right? And then I'd group and I'd factor out, right? And you can do that. In fact, if you're struggling with this way I'm about to show you, then you can do that. But I want you to notice, because the a value is really an understood 1, there's a 1 there, even though you don't see it, there's a 1 there. Because that a value is 1, I can actually skip straight from this step here and just make my factors n, and I have this right here, minus 3 times my next one, n minus 5. And once again, the only reason I can skip from here to here in this case is because I have an understood 1 there. The value of the a is 1. If you have an a value of 1, you can do what's called the half x method, and we do that by, once again, skipping straight from this step. You put the n's in front, and then you just put the minus 3 and the minus 5 behind them respectively. All right, we good? All right, let's move on to the next one. Once again, if that confused you though, then you can always still do it with the full X method, like I said, and and factor the group and factor them out, just like we've done before. Okay, so if this skipping this step, those steps right there are confusing you, then you know what? You just do it the full X method way. All right. So let's write the equation of a line that has a slope of 2 and passes through the point -5, 1. Sorry, I can't really zoom in anymore on this one because I'm just running. It's just too big, too wide here. So write the equation of the line that has a slope of 2 and passes through the point -5, 1. So notice they gave us a slope, which I'm going to call m because I like to call my slope m, and that's what we tend to do. And they gave us a point. Well, if only there was a form of a line that was in the form where you use a point and slope. And I hope you realize that there is. It's called point slope form. We've been using it a lot recently. And it's basically y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. All right? So I want just to label a couple things here. This is going to be my x1. This is going to be my y1. And this is going to be my slope of 2. All right? So now that I have a point and I have my slope, I'm going to go ahead and just plug the values in. I leave my y. The y1 is 1 is equal to my slope, which is 2, times x minus my x1, which is -5. And you might really be tempted to leave it just like that, but you really shouldn't, because there's something here that you should always, always, always fix if you can. And that's that double negative there. We don't want to leave the double negatives. That's just too much negativity in one equation. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fix that much. 2 times x, and you minus negative, remember that's the same as adding, so it becomes 2 times x plus 5. Now if I look at my answer choices here, obviously this is x minus 5. That's not right. This is x minus 5, also not right. X minus 5. In fact, there's only one answer choice that has the x plus 5, and that's y minus 1 is equal to 2 times x plus 5. So the answer choice is, in fact, B. All right. But once again, I just want to reiterate, even if you're doing point slope form, you never want to leave it like this, because this double negative is too much negativity in one equation. Get rid of it. All right. That's what you want to simplify it down to. All right. And remember, they just wanted the equation of the line. They didn't want a slope-intercept form because they didn't ask for it. Okay. If they asked for it, you got to give it to them. All right. Here we go. Let's move on to the next one. 18. 18, write the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through. Well, now, darn it, they've asked for it. So now we got to do it. All right, here we go. So this is going to be my x1, my y1. Always label your points. If you label your points, you are more likely to not make mistakes when you're filling it in. The second thing I always suggest that you do is always write down any equations that you use so that when you're putting them in, you don't make any mistakes. And once again, always take the equations from your star chart so you don't accidentally write it wrong, okay? So they want the equation in slope-intercept form, but there's a problem with that. I don't have the y-intercept and I don't have the slope. So unfortunately, I can't just jump to slope-intercept form. But what I can do is this. I can find a slope, and I'm going to need a slope regardless of the line that I make. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in, I'm going to go ahead and write my slope formula, which is going to be m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Otherwise, the change in y over the change in x. And I'm just going to go ahead now and plug in the values I have. So the y2 is going to be 6 minus 2 over 3.
I'm reminding you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Take out the garbage.
All right, Alexa, stop. So it's -3 actually is my x2, right? Be careful of those negatives. It almost got me just then. So -3 minus a -5, right? So, ooh, and actually, oh my gosh, look at what I almost did there. Look at that negative that got me there. 6 minus a -2. Hey, if you caught that before I did, way to go. So, all right, so that's 6 minus a -2, which is really the same as 6 adding 2, which is going to be 8 over negative 3 minus negative 5, which is really the same thing as negative 3 plus 5, which is going to be positive 2. So that's 8 over 2, which I can simplify to 4 because 8 divided by 2 is 4. Oh my gosh, that was a lot of negatives to be careful with. So hey, be careful with those for sure. All right, now let's talk about, so I'm just going to draw a line here. I don't like that. Let me do this. Okay. There we go. So now that's just to separate my slope, so I can keep that separate. And I need to write the equation slope-intercept form. But notice I now have a point and I have a slope. So because I have a point in the slope, so I've done one step here. I found the slope, right? I found the slope. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it in slope-intercept form. So the second step, write, not slope-intercept form, sorry, write in point slope form my equation. I'm going to write my equation in point slope form, okay? So what I got to do for that is I'm going to go ahead and write the form out. The form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And this right here is equal to my, okay, let me go ahead and put stuff in. Y minus my y1, which is negative 2. Be careful once again of those double negatives, is equal to my slope, which is 4, m, times x minus my x1. My x1 is a negative 5. So now I get y plus 2 is equal to 4 times x plus 5. And what I have here is my final equation. Once again, you never want to leave those double negatives, too much negativity in one equation. So get rid of those double negatives, turn them into the positives, all right? Because subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. All right, so we got y plus 2 is equal to 4x plus 5. And you might be tempted to stop there, but that is not the answer. If you chose that, no, no, no. What we got to do now, they want it in what form? Slope-intercept form, right? I could star that puppy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve it now for slope-intercept form, which means I have to solve it for y, simplify and solve for y. So I'm going to start with distributing. So I get 4x plus 20 is equal to y plus 2. Then I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, right? And I get y is equal to 4x plus 18. Y is equal to 4x plus 18, and that is my final answer. That's a 4 in case you were wondering, okay? I don't like the way that turned out. Let me do that again. 4. Y is equal to 4x plus 18, okay? So, all right, so hopefully that went well for you. But once again, what we did, 3 steps. We went and we found the slope first. Then we wrote our in point slope form, right? Simplified as much as I could. And then third, I convert to what form? I convert to slope-intercept form, okay? Intercept form, all right? All right, moving on. Sorry, that's an M. All right, here we go. Given the function f of x is equal to 4x plus 5, find the value of f of 2 plus f of 14. I'm going to just make a new layer here, guys, just so that we don't have to see that. It's kind of hard to see a little bit. So let me go ahead and make a new one. Okay. Oh, I haven't told you what to write on your paper. Okay. On the top, underneath the title, you should have Cycle 10 Test Incentive on the top. Right underneath that, I want you to write, I can't wait to eat turkey. All right? I can't wait to eat turkey. So go ahead and write that, and then we'll be good. All right. So given the function f of x is equal to 4x plus 5. So once again, you have I can't wait to eat turkey under the title right now. All right. So given the function f of x is equal to 4x plus 5, find the value of f of 2 plus f of 14. Bubble your answer on the grid. So we have the f of x, right? They tell us f of x is equal to 4x plus 5. Now they want us to find f of 2 plus f of 14. So I'm going to start off, first of all, by finding f of 2. And to find f of 2, remember, wherever I see an x, there's normally an x here, right? But instead of the x, there's a 2. So wherever I see an x, I'm going to plug it in parentheses, I'm going to plug in 2. So 4 times 2 plus 5, which is equal to 8 plus 5, which is equal to 13. And this is going to be f of 14, which is equal to 4 times 14 plus 5. And 4 times 14 is going to be 28, 56, okay? So 56 plus 5, which is equal to 61. So I now have my two things. I have f of 2 and f of 14. And what do they want me to do is they want me to add f. This is once again f of 2, and this is f of 14. And they want me to take those two and add them together. So f of 2 is, f of 2, 14. Let me erase that. Okay, so now I have f of 2 is 13, right? Plus 61. And once again, I'm just looking at this f of 2 plus f of 14. So I'm adding those two together. And I just substituted it. 13 plus 61 is equal to 74. So my final answer is 74. Okay. All right. So hopefully that made sense. Bubble your answer on the grid. Don't forget to bubble it and be careful with that. Okay. Solve for x. I'm just going to go ahead and erase that just so I don't have that in my field of vision. It bothers me. So solve for x. Write identity or no solution if appropriate. So if I want to solve for x here, I want to get x alone, right? And then as x squared here, so I'm going to have to deal with some stuff. But let's go ahead and deal with what we can. Once again, if I want to get this x alone, I got a denominator here that's bugging me. So I need to go ahead and start by something as basic as multiplying by the denominator to get it out so it's not just a fraction anymore. So I have x squared minus 8 is equal to 4 times 2, which is 8. So now I have x squared minus 8 is equal to 8. So now I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Add 8 to both sides to get rid of this. That's the constant, right? So I get x squared is equal to 16, right? And the last step I have is I have x squared is equal to 16. So I need to take the square root of both sides because that's the opposite of squaring, right? So x squared and then square root of 16. So really what I get is x is equal to plus or minus 4. Now x is equal to plus or minus 4. Remember, a lot of people are going to think it's just x equals 4. But it's not x equals 4 because once again, when you're solving for a variable, you're asking what times itself can get me 16, right? Well, the answer is negative 4 times negative 4 can give me 16, right? Positive 16. Or 4 times 4 can give me 16, right? So I have to show both those answers, and I do that by doing plus or minus 4. So x is equal to plus or minus 4. I don't like the way that looked, so let me try again. X is equal to plus or minus 4. And once again, that just means the answer is either 4 or negative 4. That's what that means, okay? So anyway, great job with that one. X equals plus or minus 4. Let's go ahead and do the next one. I'm going to erase that just to get it out of the way and out of my field of vision. If the area of the rectangle is represented by x squared plus 9x plus 20, and its length is represented by x6 plus 4, which expression represents the width of the rectangle? So what they have here, just to put it in perspective, they have a rectangle here, and they're saying that the area, right, area which is length times width, right, the area, they said, is x squared plus 9x plus 20. And that's equal to my length, which is represented by x plus 4, times something else. And that's going to be our w. Whatever that is our w, right? And they're saying which one, what is it that is multiplied times the x plus 4. So there's actually a few different ways that you can do this to solve it, all right? I'm going to choose... Yeah, that's the one I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to choose to do this with long division. All right, so I'm going to choose to do this with long division. You could choose to do it a few different ways, but I'm going to choose to do it with long division. What you could do is if you wanted, you could FOIL x plus 4 times each of these other numbers, right? And see if you get x squared plus 9x plus 20, right? And that would work to figure out what this is here, whatever my width is, right? But I'm going to choose, like I said, to do it by long division because I kind of like long division, actually. It kind of makes me happy in the morning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my x squared plus 9x. Before we actually go any further, here's what I want you to do. In the bottom right hand corner, please draw a chicken carrying a turtle. Yes, a chicken carrying a turtle. All right, there you go. You're good. All right, bottom right hand corner, chicken carrying a turtle. Underneath the title, you should have already drawn oh, I can't wait to eat turkey or something in that regard, okay? Here we go. X squared plus 9x plus 20. So if you have this here, x squared plus 9x plus 20, and I'm going to divide it by x plus 4. Let's go ahead and do some long division. I asked how many times does x go into x squared, and the answer is it goes in x times, because x times x is x squared. Yay! All right, so x times x is x squared. The other way I could have chosen to do it is just try and factor this, actually. That would have worked too. But anyway, moving on. So x times x is x squared. But remember, I don't just multiply the x times the x. I multiply the x times the 4 as well, which is why I drew that little multiplication symbol there. But 4 times x is plus 4x. Alexa, stop. All right, it's almost time here. So x times 4 is 4x, right? Then I'm sorry, x times x is x squared, thank you. X times x is x squared, x times 4 is 4x, right? So then I'm going to subtract those, right? And I should get, these cancel out, but 9x minus 4x is going to be 5x, right? And then I bring down the plus 20. And I ask, how many times does x go into 5x? And the answer is x goes into 5x 5 times. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 4 is 20. Yay! So when I subtract those two, I get 0. So my answer is just x plus 5, which ends up being, which answer choice? A. Ding, 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 ding. They were nice. They actually put that one first, because sometimes if you're doing like FOIL, if you were just doing FOIL to figure it out, at least with A it would have got done quickly. All right. Hey, all right. So anyway, that was a wonderful time. All right. What I want you to do in the bottom left-hand corner, say something that you like about your algebra class. All right, something you like about your algebra class, whether it's your teacher, whether it's the person sitting next to you, or the cute girl across the way. Hey, whatever it is, I don't care. Just something you like about your algebra class. So once again, underneath the title, you should have something like I can't wait to eat turkey. Right in the bottom right-hand corner, you are drawing a chicken. I think carrying a turtle is what it was. And in the bottom left-hand corner, do whatever I just said. Oh yeah, something you like about your algebra class, all right? Anyway, I wish you the very best. As always, it is a pleasure to teach you. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I wish you the very best of luck on your test. I want to stress to you, once again, this is the least you should be doing to study for your test. I know it's 30 minutes, but really, you need to have that work ethic that says, I'm going to do whatever it takes for me to be successful. So if you're passing tests and you're doing a great job already, well, hey, this might be all it takes for you. If you are needing a little bit of an extra boost, then you should do the rest of the study sheet. Once again, remember, we're basically giving you the test beforehand because the study sheet is exactly like the test, except for we just changed numbers. So anyway, I wish you the best of luck on your test coming up. Keep up the hard work, and I'll see you next time.